Welcome to Conspiracies Against Wellness with your host, Jonelle Elgaway.
Good evening and welcome to Conspiracies Against Wellness. I'm your host, Jonelle Elgaway. Tonight's guest is Claudia Merandi. She is an author, Crohn's advocate, chronic pain patient, and founder of the Don't Punish Pain rallies. If you have a question for Claudia, please call in at 415-915-2291. You can also listen and chat live with our audience from our YouTube channel, Conspiracies Against Wellness livestream. And now I'd like to welcome Claudia to Con Nation. How are you this evening?
Hi, Jonelle. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. So, Claudia, can you please tell me a little bit about who you are and your professional background?
Sure. So I'm from Providence, Rhode Island, and I was born here. I left after college, or I went to college down south. I moved back because my Crohn's disease, I started to develop symptoms of Crohn's when I was about 6 years old. My dad had it. And after I finished court reporting school, I moved back to Rhode Island. I opened up Merandi Court Reporting, had a great business, had great employees on staff. And due to the severity of my illness, I was unfortunately forced to go on disability. And I spent about 20 years in the hospital bed. So that was my journey. That was the beginning. That was the beginning of the end, I tell people, for a lot of reasons.
Okay, so you have Crohn's disease. What exactly is Crohn's disease?
So it's an autoimmune disease, and it's also a gastrointestinal issue. So some people have colitis or Crohn's. I was blessed to have both. Said no one ever. And you'll get really painful cramping. You get a lot of distension in the stomach. For me, a big problem, I would get blockages, and I would have to have bowel resections.
Oh my goodness. Is there a cure for this?
There's no cure. There's a lot of great biologics out there. I did have a colostomy bag. I was blessed to have it reversed. And I've been on Remicade, and I just started methotrexate. And those are two biologics. They are in the chemotherapy family.
Okay.
And I've done pretty well with the Remicade, God willing. Both of my girls were Remicade babies.
Oh,
so,
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So when did you start advocating?
I think I was in the hospital around 9 years ago. The whole time I was in the hospital, I kept a journal. Because when you're in the hospital, when you're inpatient, you see things. You see a lot of things. And my mom never left my side. She would leave to take care of my girls, because both of my girls were raised in the hospital. And I would see a lot of unkindness, a lot of discrimination. I would see that. Just, I don't know.
By doctors and nurses or patients?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
By doctors and nurses to a certain community of people, and I didn't like it, so I started to keep a journal. And probably around 9 years ago, I started to notice they were using the term drug seeker, and it started to become more and more frequent. And I would wait until the very last minute before I would get admitted. I would crawl in, because you never want to go through that interrogation process in the emergency room. That's what I refer to it as.
Right.
So when 4 years ago, when I was introduced to opioids, my life changed for the better. My life completely changed. And I started to advocate on Facebook, not advocate, but I started to blog. And I noticed every time I would blog, people would reach out to me. First it would be 5, 10, 15, and before you knew it, my messenger was always lighting up on my phone, and people would say, "Can you help me out?" So probably 3-4 years ago is when I started to advocate. But I was an advocate for the elderly before I did anything. I had some training in that area.
So do you advocate just for Crohn's and the elderly, or do you advocate for all chronic pain patients now?
Well, I was advocating for everybody, but the past 3 months, I started to get pretty stressed out because when I would advocate, especially in the emergency room, you know, sometimes on a Friday night in the emergency room, things would get crazy. Doctors would be, you know, their tempers are flaring, and you always want to try and keep peace.
Yeah.
So I would advocate for anybody, but it got to be too much. It started off advocating a few times a week, and then before you know it, it was 7 days a week, crazy hours. So middle of the night when people get sick.
Why do you advocate for others?
Well, so being a court reporter definitely enabled me to do things in my life that most could not. So I can walk into a room and feel comfortable, and I could be with judges, lawyers, police officers. You know, you lose that. You don't have a fear who you're around. And I would take doctors' depositions. So I always felt comfortable speaking, you know, on behalf of patients, because some patients just can't advocate for themselves.
Right.
And I didn't want to see people being treated without compassion. I got fed up, and I couldn't, the stories that would be coming into me would be horrific and sad. And I said, nope, I'm going to take care of it. Hit the red button on, you know, hit the chart, get that charge nurse in there, and let's try and get you some pain relief. Or it could just be advocating for a person who was trying to get disability, or somebody that needed a letter to be written. And my training as a court reporter enables me to do all of those things.
So what's like the usual everyday kind of advocating that you would do? Like what? Give me an example of what it would be like.
Well, last night, so I stopped advocating over the phone, and I just want to advocate for people with Crohn's at this point, because I think, I don't want to say, but people started to take advantage of me.
Okay.
But I started to advertise in the newspaper in my area, and this couple contacted me, and they explained their story. This man had spinal stenosis, and I got his permission to discuss it. And I went there last night. I met him at his pain management center, and they filed a complaint with risk management. He was subjected to injections, but he still wasn't receiving pain relief. So when I walked in the room, I said to myself, oh boy, this is going to go one way or the other. So the doctor came in, risk management came in, and they had their patient advocate. And that's a person that works for the hospital. I always like to let people know that that person's never there for the patient. That person's there on behalf of the hospital. Mm-hmm. And it was the husband and the wife and 2 nurses. And the wife was visibly, she was upset, rightfully so. Her husband had been treated probably not the way he should have been treated, but I think they had done everything that they could for him, but this doctor was not budging on pain management. He said, no, it's not, I'm not going to do it. I'm an anesthesiologist. So I just sit there quietly, and I just try to diffuse the situation, and that's what happened last night. And then things got a little off key, and I didn't want them attacking the doctor, mm-hmm. because that's not what the doctor's there for. He shouldn't have to be attacked. So I just intervened, and I said, let's be frank. Why are we here? We're here because this patient's in pain. What can we do to have this person not be in pain leading up to his surgery, which is 8 weeks out? And this doctor said, I'm not going to prescribe any opioids. And I said, well, I need to ask you, why would you prescribe him an antidepressant? And he said, well, no, antidepressants have shown to be that there's pain relief in them. I said, well, is his neck depressed? I try to make light of the situation.
Right.
I said, come on. I said, look, if you were in pain, you wouldn't take an antidepressant. Don't expect a patient to take an antidepressant. I said, let's put our cards on the table. A fentanyl patch could do this man some great could give him the relief that he needs. And he said, absolutely not. Fentanyl, the overdoses. I said, no. I said, I don't want to start quoting statistics because I have doctors that take care of that for me. But I said, I can tell you this, not one person in this state, and I was in Massachusetts, died from a fentanyl patch on their body. Mm-hmm. If they died, it was because of fentanyl that was shipped in from China. Right. And, I said, let's go to a place of maybe before you go to a place of no. And I noticed this doctor kept looking at my port in my chest. And I said to him, I noticed you're looking at my port. I said, let me tell you my story. And I just give a brief synopsis, Crohn's, opioids. And he said, well, that's different. I said, it's not different because he's been suffering since you did the last injection. I said, what can we all agree on where this patient is going to be out of pain, give him some relief, and what's going to make you feel comfortable? I said, what harm? He's been on opioids for 12 years. He's not jeopardized them. He does not drink. He does not smoke. He's never abused his medication. I said, what's the harm of one script? You can do that. I said, you're the only person in this room that can take care of this situation. You don't have to prescribe long-term. You can give him a script leading up to the surgery. And he said, he was quiet, and he said, you know what, fine. He said, I want to talk to you. And I just wanted to, my job as the advocate is to diffuse the situation. You don't want to act a fool, as I say. You don't want to give these doctors what they're looking for. So my job was to get this man what he needed, and it just happened. I just happened to be successful yesterday. But the greater success, Jonelle, is when the nurse came up to me and asked for my card, and she said, if you weren't here, this could have gone horribly. And I said, nope, it went the way it should have went. And the patient advocate that they had, she looked like she was 12. I think she was shaking at one point. And it could have gone the other way. But the greatest goal of yesterday is when the anesthesiologist said, can I talk to you? And he said, what exactly do you do? And I told him about the doctors that reach out to me and what's going on in the community. And he said, he said, we're not giving this stuff out like candy anymore. I said, I get that. I said, I get you, but you've got to understand what this community is going through. I said, the pendulum is swung. He said, you're absolutely right. I said, do me a favor. The next time this happens, go to a place of maybe before you go to a place of no, and think of one of your kids, because one of your kids could get my illness. So, you just have to break it down. And right. I just think it's breaking down. So that's usually how I advocate. Okay. I sit there, I listen, and then I intervene when necessary. Okay. But doesn't always happen.
We have a question from YouTube. Has Claudia ever worked as a court reporter in any DEA cases?
Yes, I worked for the feds. So I've been privy to working with the DEA, the FBI. So when you work for the federal government,
like?
It was stressful. It was really stressful. It's not. Yeah, well, because you're hearing things when you work for when you're a court reporter for the federal grand jury, you hear things that nobody else can hear, and it's a secretive process. Yeah. So it was very stressful. It wasn't one of my favorite gigs, and it's not good for Crohn's disease too. But as a court reporter, you work in all forums. Mm-hmm. So yes, I did.
Okay. So now, how did you get into these rallies? Because you have the Don't Punish Pain rally. Now, you are the founder of that, correct?
I am.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about how you created it, why you created it?
Sure. So 2017, October, I was driving. I think I had to go pick up my little one somewhere, and I noticed that there were TV crews outside of Rite Aid. And I said, wow, these TV crews, they've been here for a few weeks. And my little one said, "Oh, Mommy, somebody left their dog out, and they keep reporting on how the dog is doing." And I said, "Oh my gosh." I said, "All these pain patients are suffering, and this dog is getting all of this media attention." And the dog is fine, by the way, so I don't need any dog people coming after me. The dog is just fine. And that night, I said, "I'm going to create a nationwide rally." And I announced it on Facebook because I said the only way we're going to receive nationwide media coverage is if we bring this situation to light in every state. And I made the decision maybe September of 2017, and it started like that. It started with 5 members, and look where we are today. So we started on Facebook, and I'm not Facebook savvy at all. Mm-hmm. And I had some wonderful people that helped me, and they created a page, and people just started to reach out. A lot of the Crohn's community I already had a pretty big following in the Crohn's community, and it blew up. Honestly, I don't remember. I do know I started it on a deck of index cards that were my little ones, mm-hmm. because I'm not a computer person. So I wrote down all the states on index cards, and I used to have, you trial and error. Mm-hmm. I never organized a protest and to do a national protest, and that's how it started. It just it took off from there.
Why a rally?
Well, my dad was an activist. Mm-hmm. He was a bus driver, but he was also a pivotal figure in the union, and I just always would hear him speak about protesting and the power behind protesting. And I used to think he was a cuckoo clock because I said, "Oh my God, nobody protests anymore, Dad." And he always used to have me type up his letters. He was always writing letters to the editor. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, my dad passed 11 years ago, and that just never left me. And I said, protest is something that you can do for free. You can do it anywhere, and you can be heard, and that's how being heard and getting media is what we needed. And that was the only way that I could find a solution, but do my part, because I couldn't walk away without having done something to try and affect change and get people the help that they needed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. So in your first rally, that was this past September, correct? How did that turn out for you guys?
It was April. It was only a few months ago. It was
April. Okay, I'm so sorry. How did that go for you? And what did you learn from that?
Well, I learned to never have a rally in April.
How come?
Because it's cold.
Yeah.
It was freezing out, and it broke my heart to see like people in Michigan. They were so cold, and they were in wheelchairs, and so I learned not to do it in April. That's the first thing I learned. And I learned that I knew we were going to protest again, but I didn't think it was going to be September. So there's a lot of things that you learned. I also learned, tricks of the trade with the media, how to get the media where you need them to be. And you just pay attention. I pay attention. I watch a lot of AIDS activists, and I go back to the HIV era in the 1980s, mm-hmm. and what that community was able to accomplish through protesting and, at the FDA buildings, not allowing people to go in. And it's very powerful, and it's useful, and it's been around for hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. So you learn. This protest on September 18th, which is a Tuesday, I knew I needed to make this protest accessible to all pain patients, because I kept hearing, if I can't travel to the Capitol. So I said, no problem. This protest, we're going to have between 2 and 4 venues for every state. So if you want to protest at a pharmacy that hasn't treated you the nicest, that's the place to do it. A pain management center, a hospital, your Capitol, a CDC building, an FDA building, a city or a state, a senator's office, wherever you want to protest, you give me the venue, We're going to create your flyer. We're going to link it into the website, and we're going to help you get media there.
Okay.
So that's how this protest is differing from April's protest.
Okay. We have a caller from area code 971. What is your name and what's your question?
I'm Joy, and I'm from Oregon, and I just wanted to say thank you so much, Claudia. September 18th on our calendar. We will be there.
Oh, I'm so glad, Joy. You guys are fighting a lot right now. I'm following, and Joy, it makes me happy because when I first started to protest, I caught a lot of flack from the community. And when I saw what Oregonians were going through recently with the Medicaid denial of the opioids, I saw those people out there, and I said, there you go. That's the power of protest. And you've got to get a bunch of people.
Yes,
it is.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Tomorrow people will be in Wilsonville protesting.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then September 18th, I have pages on my car. I'm passing pages out to people about our rally. Absolutely. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, God, you're going to make me cry. Stop. Please, please, don't say that. You know what? When we have a law and when Senate passes a separate patient Bill of Rights, I'm going to say you're welcome. But until then, if people don't know it, I never say you're welcome to people because I haven't done anything yet. I think I got the ball rolling, but everybody has to continue with the ball rolling because, we get sick. So I'm glad, Joy. I thank you for your beautiful words. And when people say that, it always, I get emotional. It's big. So thank you.
Joy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. People are asking, when is the next rally? September 18th,
so
correct?
We protest again.
Mm-hmm.
So the way so what I did with this protest, with the help of some amazing people, let me tell you that right now. So we have Sherry from Texas that just created 50 groups on Facebook. So when people come to me on the national page, they should only be with me a short time. Or if they find me on the website, don'tpunishpainrally.com, you can find out what protests are being held and where. And if you think that venue is not amenable for you, we're going to help you create your own protest venue. So some people decide, well, I'm working on that Tuesday. I want to protest on Saturday. Is that okay? Absolutely, it's okay. This is your state, your protest. Everything's okay. I just ask that people always conduct themselves with the utmost respect wherever they are, because they're representing the pain community.
How did you name it? Why did you call it Don't Punish Pain?
I saw a hashtag on Twitter.
Okay.
And it seemed so appropriate. And I just, there was a Crohn's organization that uses the same name. And I'm in the process now of getting Don't Punish Pain Rally organization copyrighted.
Okay.
So that's been...
Like the domain name, you mean? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But there's also, the DPP is actually attached to a group in, like an ISIS group. So we had to be careful with that.
Wow.
So so it's just one of those things.
Oh, my goodness. Now, will there be media at these rallies in each state?
Well, that's the name of the game. So what I tell people, and I can't get media to everybody's rally, but I can teach people how to get media to their rally. There will always be media at a protest because, you've got to send, I've created a media advisory, once again, with the help of some amazing people, and that's posted on the website. And all you have to do is you've got to Google. The website is don'tpunishpainrally.com.
Okay.
Once again, I had help doing it because I don't know the first thing about that website, and I've got an amazing man out of New Jersey that helps me. So I like to teach people how to get media to their rally. In a perfect world, I would get media myself to everybody's rally. It's just hard because I'm managing a lot of media leading up to it.
So how would somebody go about it? Yeah. What would they do?
Okay, so very simple. The first thing you want to do is Google the top 3 news stations where your protest is being held. So in Indiana, I think or Cedar Rapids, because I just spoke with another advocate. So I said, you're in Cedar Rapids, let's get you the closest news station to you. Google that channel, and you're going to Google, say, Channel 12 breaking news phone number. And there's always somebody at that phone. You're going to see that phone number come up on Google, and you're going to call them, and you're going to say, how do I get you a press release? And they're going to give you a phone number to scan it over, fax it over, whatever. And then you're going to say, I need to speak with your events or your assignment calendar because I need to be put down on the assignment calendar. We're protesting on Tuesday, September 18th. Now, this isn't something you want to do now because it's too far away. Anything can happen between, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you're going to wait. You want to do that about 5 days prior to, and you want to hound them. I hound every day. Okay. But it's not a bad idea now to reach out to any media you can get to let them know, look, we're having a protest. Would you like to do some pain patient stories leading up to the protest? That's what's happening now.
Okay.
A lot of people are getting their pain stories. A lot of people on the rally page. I know Michigan's got some coverage coming this week. Indiana, Chicago Tribune did a beautiful job on Dawn Anderson's story, and they acknowledged the DPP. So I always I hound my media. My media wants me to go away, and I'm not going anywhere. Believe it or not, it's easier for me to get a piece run on a newspaper in the Midwest than it is for me to get coverage in New England. It's very difficult area to. I live in a very liberal state, so it's hard. Mm-hmm. But I'll still get media coverage, but I have to go knocking on the door and pretty much beg, or I have to work out with them at the gym, if you can believe that. And I do it. I'll go on the Stairmaster for an hour just so I can get some coverage.
That's awesome.
So that's what I do.
We have another caller from area code 980. What is your name and what's your question?
Hey, this is Jessica, and
hi, Jess.
Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Jess.
Hey, I just want to let you know, first of all, North Carolina has media coverage. We've got WBTV covering it. But
awesome.
My question is to you, what is the Twitter tag so everyone can start tagging basically the rally on Twitter, and what's the best way for them to get it out? Because as you can see, I'm watching chat, people don't know about it as much as they should.
So when I tweet the rally, I tweet hashtag DPP 2018. And now I think we just started to tweet Don't Punish Pain 2018 or hashtag DPP 2018. I have to check, Jess. I'm not the best with the gadgets, the devices. So once it's in front of me, then I can tell. I think our last person in Indiana, Sarah, was the person that created that hashtag. And if you look up hashtag DPP Rally 2018, there is like a tweeter thing. I don't know what the heck it's called. But Jess, you're really good at the computer, so you should probably come up with something great for us. Jess is our computer genius from North Carolina.
Jess, did you have any other questions?
No, that was it. But you're actually right, Claudia. It is found DPP 2018.
Hey, Jess, where are you guys having it in North Carolina? Just so I know.
Well, we've actually got 3 different rallies right now. I'm trying to get more people encouraged because, like Claudia said, I created another site just for North Carolina, Don't Punish Pain. Mm-hmm. We've got one going on in Asheville. We've got, they're going to be doing it at their federal courthouse.
Okay.
And that's by a nice woman named Suzanne. We've got Raleigh, which is done by Beverly, and that's one of Claudia's very, very close friends.
Yeah.
And advocates as well. And she's doing it right in front of the Capitol, right beside the Halifax Mall in Raleigh. And then you have mine, which is in Charlotte, and I'm hitting the SBA building here in Charlotte.
Which is that's a great venue to protest, let me tell you. That's the bomb. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
We've got 3 cities, but we're looking for more. We want people to really, kind of come in. That's the problem I've had. I need people to come in who are willing to say, hey, I'm going to take Greensboro, and I'm going to be in charge of Greensboro. I'm going to go ahead and start, because it's not hard to get the permits at all or anything like that.
So
honestly, it's free.
Who do you contact if you want to have a rally in your area? Who does somebody contact to get help and learn about that?
Well, if you're gonna protest at your capital, you call your capital. For me, in Rhode Island, it was very simple. I just called and they put me on the events calendar. I pull permits out of courtesy. You don't need a permit to ever protest. You can always go on the sidewalk in front of your capital because that's your right. We still have rights, believe it or not. So, and you need to exercise those rights. If you're going to have 50 or greater people, you should have a permit. But if you're going to protest at a hospital, people picket outside of hospitals all the time. Always call the police department. Always, always, always call the police department. And if you're going to use signs, don't have sticks attached. But I call the police department for any venue, hospitals. If you're on the sidewalk and you don't impede traffic, you shouldn't need a permit. Now, if you're at a park, a state park, well, you may need a permit. So you just have to, once again, Google, do I need a permit to protest at Cedar Rapids Park? Mm-hmm. Or do I need a permit? Google it, and it's right there for you.
Does that mean, usually that you have, over 100 people or something? Is there a certain amount of why you would need that?
If it's a gun issue, the gun rights, those can get, that's a pretty controversial issue. These are fairly benign rallies, so they don't, we don't anticipate it being problematic, so we don't have police details. Now, in Texas, they did have some police details. Some places they did have some undercover people. In Rhode Island, we didn't have. It was freezing out, so I don't think, and not much happened. It's a fairly benign rally. People have to conduct themselves. Be cool. That's what I tell people. Be cool. Pass out flyers, educate people, put on a good look when you're protesting. I like that. I don't like to see people smoking in the Capitol. It's not a good look.
Love It S from YouTube. Can people protest anywhere?
Yes, absolutely. You can protest wherever you want, as long as you're on a sidewalk and you're not impeding traffic. Once again, you always call your police department. I keep my signs in the car all the time because you know what I found, Jonelle? If I have my 13-year-old daughter with me and she needs $20 to go to the mall, I'm going to give her that $20 and she's going to stand outside with me with that sign covering her face. But it goes, and you know what? I did? This is when I said, wow, I probably look like a crazy person. The nurses were picketing at one of the hospitals today, and I had an interview at a local station. So I jumped in line because there was media there. And I had my sign with me, and somebody said, what is that sign? And I said, I represent the pain patient neglect. Mm-hmm. And I started talking to nurses about it because that's free media. You've got to grab that media when you can. Okay. And, we hold out for the Holy Grail. We hold out for spotlight from the Boston Globe. And that day will come. We're not being received yet, but it will happen.
So what exactly is going to happen at these rallies? So if I show up, say, to Raleigh, what's going to go on there? What can people expect?
Well, you want to encourage... So my protest is inside the rotunda at the Rhode Island State House. So I started to advertise in the newspaper because I want a good turnout because the day after is when I meet with the governor and when I meet with the head of the Department of Health. Okay. So I just wanted... I wanted to meet with these pain patients prior to. I will not have speakers at my protest. But in Washington State, we've invited doctors to speak. I think Dr. Klein may be speaking at the one in Raleigh. I know an invitation was extended. So there's going to be speakers. Some people may have informational, pamphlets that they'll hand out. Pretty much at my protest, we had media there for a good amount of time. And at the time, I thought bringing shoes to represent someone's presence was a great idea. Mm-hmm. But then I realized shoes it's a great idea if there's 40,000 of them. And, it's trial and error. But there's going to be speakers at certain protests. Some protests, there may only be 3 people. And I tell people, please don't get discouraged, because 3 people is better than 0 people. And that happened at April's protest because they didn't know about the protest until 24 hours prior to. And it doesn't matter if there's only 3, but if there's 3 people at 4 different venues or 20 people at each protest, you never know what can happen. And it could be that one reporter that could show up who's got a mom, who's very sick with cancer, who's being denied pain medication, and that story could resonate with that reporter. So you just never know what's going to happen. But I tell people every day, please don't get discouraged. Usually with the protest, nothing comes together until 72 hours prior to the day.
Yeah. What if I want to have a sign? What should I say on my sign?
So on the website, don'tpunishpainrally.com, as well as the national page on Facebook, I have all the signs that I have. And on one sign, it says on the front, Don't Punish Pain Rally, and on the back it says, Stop penalizing law-abiding citizens who need pain medication, or something to that effect. Or we have an illicit fentanyl crisis, not a opioid crisis. Mm-hmm. Or oh gosh.
What should we stay? What should you stay away from? Like, is there certain things that you should?
Oh, okay. Well, you never want to use words like junkies. Okay. That's bad, because I also work with people who have lost their loved ones to overdoses. So stay away from. First off, make sure your words are spelled correctly, and look on the website and look on the Facebook page, because we have every sign imaginable. Government, get out of our medicine cabinet. Stop discriminating against pain patients. Or, just there's so many of them. But you don't want to use anything with a negative connotation attached. Is something we never want to use, because once again, this is a community that needs opioids. And, we're being ostracized, we're stigmatized, because when people think of opioid now, they think of overdosing, people injecting themselves with needles, and that's where we are. And that's why we have to put our best foot forward, and that's why we have to look a certain way. And when I created the Don't Punish Pain, I had rules, mm-hmm. and those were the rules. And I'm a stickler when it comes to how you present yourself. And so you can get all different sign ideas, just no sticks attached to your sign, because that could be used as a weapon in some states.
Okay, good point. If somebody wants to donate to help out with the rallies, how can they do that?
Well, I don't accept donations. I don't have a nonprofit. I still do everything on a volunteer basis. Okay. Now, that's today. What's going to happen in the future, I don't know. I have gone back and forth in my mind about creating a nonprofit, accepting donations. I've had wonderful people on Facebook. They want to create GoFundMes. But at this point, I don't feel good about asking sick people for money. I'm disabled, so I know the struggles. And it's something that stays close to my heart. And that's where I am today. What happens in the future, I don't know. So everything I'm doing now, I pay for myself. I pay for my advertising. I go in WPRO tomorrow morning, a radio station, and I make a commercial. And that's going to be a lot of money. But Jonelle, if I didn't think it needed to be done, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to take the chance and, pay for it.
If somebody wants to volunteer, help out, how can they do that?
Okay, great question, because we're getting a lot of these. So if you go on that website, don'tpunishpainrally.com, a lot of people aren't on Facebook, and some of these people are older people, but they want to be a part of it. So a lot of people just want to pass out flyers, so they can get their flyer off of the website, they can print them out at home, and they can pass out flyers. Or they can call their senator's office and their congressperson's office and explain the situation. All the senators, all the congresspeople, they're all well aware of the overcorrected CDC guidelines. Passing out flyers is a huge help. Helping find venues, for me, is a greater help because I'm not familiar with the state of Ohio. So I need somebody to break down Ohio for me. I need people to break down Texas. So I ask people how you can help me out by suggesting break down your state for me and come up with 4 venues for me and call those places and see if there's permits. And then I'll start to promote the event. So that's a huge help for me.
Still in?
So I'm sorry.
I apologize. We have a caller again, a caller from area code 980. What's your name and what's your question?
All right. Hey, it's Jess again. This is just for everyone else. Where is the best place to put these flyers? Where should we really be focusing on passing them out? I actually had my pharmacist post it at the pharmacy, and I work at, grocery stores and post offices. But where should we really try to post these flyers?
Pain management centers. Absolutely. That's the first place. And I tell people, Google pain, call your Department of Health and say, I need a list of pain management centers that do injections as well as opioids. And it's on their website. And every time I advocate or I go someplace, a doctor's office, I always have my flyers with me. I left them at 3 primary care physicians' offices today. I left them inside the hospital cafeteria where I decided to pick it. And those pain management centers are huge. There's also newspapers that will advertise for $7 for 2 weeks, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
You can send them over a Word document, and they'll advertise those flyers for you. When you leave the grocery store, you know how you see those magazines there? They're free. Those magazines are picked up by so many different people. In Boston, we're going to be advertising in the subway magazines that they put out, because everybody reads those. When I get on the subway, they grab them because they're free. So that's also another, and that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It still costs money, but it's a way to now, reach a big community.
Do they let you? Do you have to ask permission to put them at doctors' offices or wherever?
No.
No, you could just put them out there.
I do.
Okay.
I mean, I'll stick a flyer where if I've got to get that flyer in, it's going to be left there. And you know what I did? And my mom was all for it. I taped them on the inside of my mom's windows, and I had magnets made up for my car. So when I drive, my poor kids, they're mortified. There's stickers on the side of the car that say, if you're a pain patient that's being neglected, call this phone number, or stop the pain patient suffering. So car magnets are a great idea, and you can offer them. But my kids drive, and they're crouched down in the back. Or the 17-year-old, she won't get in the car with me anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was just thinking, too, if you go to the grocery store and put them on the windows of cars that are parked, too, I mean...
You've got to be careful, because that's illegal in some places. And I learned that the hard way.
Oh, wait, what did you say? I'm sorry. Yeah. What happened?
You've got to be careful, because it's illegal some places to put flyers on windshields.
Oh.
Yes, and I got caught, and I said, no problem, I'll take them off. I think I was outside of one of the gyms I belonged to, and I was just dropping them off. So, if there's a will, Claudia Merandi's she's going to find it, and she's going to leave those flyers there. So, you've got to get creative and Google it.
Yeah.
You know, I always go back to that the AIDS epidemic and what these people did to receive the attention that they received. And the LGBT community, the most powerful community, the NRA. And I met with an activist from the LGBT community, and she said to me, Claudia, you want these senators to call you one day, and you want them to say to you, please stop. What can we do for you to stop? And until that day happens, this will just, we're not going to stop. Mm-hmm. And after September 18th, nothing stops. I tell people, you hold on to your signs. I've got those 50 state pages up and running for that reason. So you can now organize within your own state. And if let's say it's a nice fall day on a Sunday afternoon, somebody on that state page, like Jess lives in North Carolina, hey, let's get a bunch of us and let's go protest outside of the senator's house on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You know, you do what you have to do, and you can't let up because they're not. So we can't.
Have you had a hard time, because this is what I have a hard time breaking through to, the people that aren't involved in this and whatsoever, like the healthy people. How have you been able to be successful in getting those type of people to listen and help and be a part of this?
That's why I'm going in the studio to make a commercial.
Okay.
Because I knew I needed to reach the healthy people. Because it's no longer a chronic pain patient issue. It's an everybody's issue.
Yeah. Yep.
And when I speak with people, whoever it is, I'll be in Target. I was in Target and a lady asked me to autograph her book, and I thought it was a joke. I thought my kids were playing a joke on me. I didn't know I live in a very small state, and she said, "Can you autograph my book?" I said, "Of course." I autographed her book, and we started talking, and she said, I was really sick, and I was in so much pain, and they would not give me any pain medication. And I said, because it's no longer a pain patient issue. And, I had it on my list to talk with you about it. 60% of our problem is we're not educating the general public. Mm-hmm. For me, the easiest way is to make a commercial. And my goal was to make a commercial and start having it advertised in New England, and then hopefully trickle into other states for people who can afford it.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to educate the general public. Another way that I've reached out is by reaching out to the families who have lost loved ones to the overdosing epidemic. So I'm going to the Purdue Pharmaceutical March, and it's, I've already reached out to the moms. They're on the page. And I explained to them what's happening. And I said, I empathize. I can't imagine what you're going through, having to mourn the loss of your child. I said, I've got kids. I said, I'm going to be at the march, but for a different reason, because I just want to share with you our loss, because we have a suicide list. And when I speak with the moms, they said, oh my gosh, I had no idea this was happening. And this lady said, I lost my son, but I had breast cancer. If I didn't have opioids, I would have been in horrible pain. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, the reason I want to talk with all of you is because if you force the issue, you want to get the government to shut down Purdue, stop making OxyContin. My fear is one day you may need that drug, and it's not going to be there for you. So this is how I started to educate the general public, and it was by reaching out to those who have lost loved ones, because that's the biggest community that we need to, I don't want to say educate because that sounds condescending, but that's the community that we have to reach out to, because that's the community that the government's listening to. And I really believe it starts there. So for me, that's what I'm doing. And pretty much whenever I meet people, or, I'm blessed because I was a court reporter and I have access to a lot of people that others don't, judges that I meet with that are friends. I talk to them about it. And let me tell you, it is more common than not to hear a person, a judge, a lawyer, whatever, and they say, you know what, my son is on pain medication and he gets tested every 4 weeks now. He has these urine tests, and he feels like a criminal. So healthy people are aware. They're just not aware of the suffering.
Right.
And that's what we need to educate people on.
What is your main goal for this whole thing? Like, what are you wanting to do with Don't Punish Pain and everything you're doing?
So in Rhode Island, I had the emergency room compassion bill passed. Mm-hmm. Now, they passed it as a resolution. And let me tell you, that was no easy feat, because the first part of that bill focuses on the addictions community. And then the middle part of the bill said, having said that, all pain patients or people with chronic conditions will be treated with compassion and will receive opioids when deemed appropriate. My goal in my state is to have a separate set of guidelines for pain patients, have them grandfathered in, but not exclude new people to the sick community, as I refer to it. I want a separate set of guidelines. The CDC guidelines, I don't foresee them being changed. But what we can do is we can get a separate set of guidelines to address the pain community. And that's my goal. And that's going to take a while. But if you break it down for your local legislators, it's actually understandable. So that's my big goal. Also, I like to teach people how to advocate, and it's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can walk in and, sit across from a doctor and look them in the eyes and get, have a conversation going. So I'd like to try and teach people how to advocate and how to advocate for themselves. And it's hard to do when you're sick, but how to advocate for their children. So those are my goals.
Mm-hmm. What's going to happen after September Don't Punish Pain rallies? Are you going to have more?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why
this will keep going on.
Were created.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Until that separate set of guidelines. Once 60 Minutes runs a story, that will be the beginning. I did a big post about it. First, you'll hear 60 Minutes. That'll be the big thing. And we actually, public radio, they're trying to, a great reporter, great journalist I've been working with, she just pitched our story, and they said, not yet, we're not ready. But they've done their research, and we've been working together for months on this. Uh-huh. It's going to be 60 Minutes Dateline. It's all going to happen at one time. And then you're going to see the senators shaking their fists at the sky with their faces red. I want to know how this happened. What's going on? Why are these veterans being denied what they need? And they're going to play Dumbo, and they're going to play like they never knew any of this was happening, because that's the life, that's the world we live in. And then a senator will sponsor a bill that I've been trying to get in for 88 years, and that's how it's going to happen. And it's going to be the trickling effect. It'll start with first it starts with the small local stations, and then it goes to the nightly news, and then over to CBS News, Dateline, and then there'll be the big fight on Capitol Hill. So that's how I foresee it happening. And God willing, I stay in remission, I'll be doing this for quite a bit.
Okay.
And I said at the last rally I would exit after April's rally, because it gets to you. It really, it consumes you. And you start to dream about people you've not met, but you talk with on the phone. And, the rally just consumes you. But I try not to let it affect me like it used to. Yeah. So I think I'm at a good place. I just have to stay at that good place. It's a lot.
You mentioned you have a book. May I ask what it is?
Yeah. Actually, my book really led into my advocating. So my book is called Crohn's Disease, the other C word, Crohn's Disease, Court Reporting and Custody Battle.
I like that.
I fought a custody battle. Yeah, well, my mom didn't, but she's 82. My mom still hasn't finished it, but the book is done. I self-published, and it's done incredibly well. It's done really well in the UK, which I never thought it would reach the UK. So many men have bought the book. It's R-rated. My blog is R-rated. I discuss everything.
Okay.
Nothing is ever sugar-coated with me. For people that follow me, I think I've been pretty clear about who I am. And my book was, when I first announced, I suffer with depression.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, it wasn't something to be embarrassed about. So I broke down every part of my life, from the time I was a child, from my dad, hearing my dad suffer with Crohn's, and now my 16-year-old. So it was my life from the time I was 6 until the present time. And now my children's book is still getting illustrated. That's called Daddy on the Potty, about a little girl with Crohn's disease. And all proceeds from Daddy on the Potty will go to the Merandi Foundation, which pays for babies with ostomies. So babies that need ostomy supplies, children that need ostomy supplies, and the other donations are going to Uber rides for people that need to get to the hospital.
That's wonderful.
So Dottie on the Potty and Louie on the Loo, it's a unisex book. It's taking so long because my illustrator is a genius, and we just want it to be the way we want it to be. So I've been blessed.
Yeah. Where can you pick up the other C word right now if you wanted to buy it?
Every time I hear that title, I laugh. That book wasn't allowed in libraries. And Martin
really?
Schindler, a guy that I advocate for in Colorado, he finally got it at the library. So it's, you can actually go into a bookstore and they can order it for you, or you can download it on your Kindle on Amazon. So it's available on Amazon. Dottie on the Potty is going to be sold to GI units in children's hospitals. It's going to be pretty much, I don't think that's going to be on Amazon. I'm not sure yet. I have to see how we're going to, we'd love to get picked up by a publisher because it's expensive to create a children's book, and the donations would be off the charts. So I would be so pleased with that.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So it's a lot.
Yeah, no, it is. You are a very busy woman. I want to thank you so much for coming on this evening and sharing everything that you have. I wanted to give you any last words before we get going here.
Well, one other thing I wanted to mention is I am a fitness competitor, and I'm competing again October 27th, and I don't raise money for myself. People make donations to my favorite organization, Chris Petticone, the founder of Cure for IBD. It's a foundation. His son has Crohn's, and if people want to make donations, they'll see it pop up on Facebook, and those donations go right to Cure for IBD. So that's a big part of my life, is training and competing. I'm competing for the last time for my 50th birthday. My last words to be sent out to the pain community, because I get emotional, is please don't give up. And, you've got to hang in there. You've got to keep fighting. Help is on its way. And I tell people, when you get too tired to fight, that's where I come in. So I'll leave you with those words.
All right, Claudia. Well, thank you so much for coming on this evening, and also for the great advocacy work. Yeah, you are raising for the CPP communities. I really appreciate it. And please, all right, take care. Please join Claudia and the chronic pain patients across the country September 18th at Don't Punish Pain Rally in your local area. Again, you could find that at www.don'tpunishpainrally.com, I believe it was. I also just want to say a shout out, and we are sending prayers out to all the people out in California right now that are going through the fires. I have a few friends that are out there that are going through that, so I'm so sorry that's going on. If there's anything that you need, just know that we are all thinking of you. And don't forget to join us again next Tuesday with Dr. Klein at the Doctor's Corner, and then Conation next Wednesday. And thank you for taking some time out of your evening to join us here at Conation. I'm Jonelle Elgaway, signing off until next Tuesday. Have a good night, everyone.
to Conspiracies Against Wellness with your host, Jonelle Elgaway. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers, and not necessarily those of EXG LLC, its employees, or sponsors. Copyright 2018 by EXG LLC. All rights reserved.